Sometimes there's a lawyer in there.
I'll show you. Ready? All right, I'd like to call to order the regularly scheduled meeting of the PC Wednesday, July 6th. Roll call, please.
Here.
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 All right, thank you. Before we do a Pledge of Allegiance, I'd like to officially welcome Mr. Shannon. Thanks for stepping to the plate and serving with us, and it's always great to have more people in town sharing the responsibility of helping to govern the town, so I appreciate it.
It's my honor.
My apologies for missing the dual session last night. Off to a great start. But anyway, if we could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for a moment of silence, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. A moment of silence, please. All right, thank you. All right, at this time, before we get to the minutes approval, excuse me, we need to add 3 items to new business. We need to add 8 Diaz and David, which would be the 6680 Fayette Street rezoning. That's Dog's Day Out. They're going to be giving us a presentation this evening, so that's 8 Diaz and David, 6680 Fayette Street rezoning, Dog's Day Out. And then if you could add 8E, that will be the Town Center Master Plan. 8E, Town Center Master Plan. Then 8F is in Frank, and ARB liaison, we need to appoint a person. All right, with that, if we could take a look at the minutes, please. All right, do I have a motion to accept the minutes?
I make a motion to accept the minutes from last month's meeting.
All right, thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Carroll. Okay, any discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, this time we have citizens' time. If any citizen would like to address the Planning Commission, please step forward to the mic, state your name and address, and we will be more than willing to listen to what you have to say. All right, seeing no citizens, we'll close citizens' time. All right, announcements. Does anybody have an announcement? I have one announcement. I was able to talk to a guy from Hazel today that had the bulldozer, and I said, if you have any trucks out there, would you be willing to haul away the stones? And lo and behold, they hauled all the stones away and graded it. So all the stones on the hair over are gone, and it's graded. And then I went out on a limb and I said, would you be willing to bust up these foundations? He goes, well, I need to get rid of the one anyway, because he's cutting a swale back there. So he moved it, and he said if we can have a dumpster by noon tomorrow, that he'll crush both and put it in a dumpster for us.
Wonderful.
So I've reached out to the mayor. I'll be reaching back to talk to him. I know he's going to check with Sean Landry today as potential something, so.
That was my one flag that I think Sean was promised one of those. So,
Okay, well, there's one that's good, that's
one that's
still
not so
there,
good.
and one that's been moved because they have to because of the cutting of the swell. So I'll follow up on that, but at least the stones are gone, which is a huge improvement,
That's
so.
tremendous.
So I thought that was good. All right, any ARB update? Our council?
Council updates. Last night we had our joint hearing. First and foremost, I want to put our thoughts and our prayers with Thomas, one of our town employees who unfortunately his wife had passed away over the weekend. So our thoughts and our prayers are with him and his family through this tough time. Dominion Power, their next meeting, I believe, is August 4th. They came back with findings. An independent gentleman came and did some research on it, and he came back with the findings that it's for one sole customer, as well as that I believe the Route 66 would be the best bet, and that was his recommendation. And so I believe that goes forth to the August 4th meeting. In regards to the VRE, their next meeting is July 15th. VDOT, Ms. Holly informed us that VDOT is looking for a place to put a park and ride on the Route 6615. When they were going in to do the Divergent Diamond, they had to buy some properties there for easement purposes, and I believe they're looking to put a park and ride area over there with access coming from Heathcote area. Chick-fil-A is going to be opening on August 4th. They're moving along very quickly. Cookies and Cream, I don't know if you all have had the chance to go over there, but it is an absolute splendid place. Very, very nice place to go over and take the children, take the family. Sean Landry did a great job. And Copper Cricket is, I believe, officially open as of today, if I'm not mistaken. Are they officially open?
I thought it was the 12th.
Just kidding. A little too soon. In a week. But I know that we redid the siding on the building. It looks great. We were able to rip out all the landscape, and it looks a night and day difference compared to what it was. And that's all the updates. Oh, excuse me, one more. June 9th, which is this Saturday, is the key ceremony for Sergeant Dandria. We're going to be doing a police escort from the QBE building all the way to his home on Lightner Road. I believe the escort's going to leave here at 9:15 from QBE and go all the way up to Lightner Road, and then the actual key ceremony is at 10 a.m. on Saturday. You're able to park at Mountain View Elementary, and that there will be shuttles to go back and forth to the property.
All right, well, that is a lot going on in little sleepy town of Haymarket. Mr. Leake, I appreciate you stepping up and serving on the town council, and I wish you the best. A lot of work lies ahead to keep pushing the town along.
My pleasure.
All right, let's go right to new business. First thing we need to do is elect a chair for the commission. So do we have any nominations?
I nominate Mr. Matt Caudle.
I second that nomination.
Is there anybody else that would like to be the chair? All right.
May I say that it's not for a lack of desire to be the chair, but that you did an outstanding job in the time that you served this chair, and I recommend that we vote now.
Even with missing last night, I didn't get
Everybody's allowed one strike, you know.
yeah, swing and a miss every now and then. All right. Well, how do we want to do this?
A vote, maybe?
Close the floor for nominations and take a vote.
All right, we'll close the floor if there's no other nominations. All right, roll call vote, please.
Here.
Yes, sir. Okay.
Yes.
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 Definitely yes.
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 All right, well, thanks. I will make it a point. Somebody could call me the day before. Bad start to the month of July. All right, so at this time, we need to elect a vice chair. And I think Mr. Carroll did such a great job. I would like to nominate him.
I second that one.
Turnabout's fair play, so.
I'll accept it.
All right.
Accept your nomination.
All right, we're going to close nominate. I'm sorry, did you have a nomination?
No.
All right. All right, we're going to close it. All right, roll call vote, please.
Yes.
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 All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, this time we're going to go to the business investment strategic zone. I had a chance to read over this in pretty good detail today. I'm sure the rest of you have looked at it. This is basically in a nutshell, it's on page 7 of your packet. And at the June 6, 2016 Town Council meeting, the town manager gave the background of what this zone would entail. It's basically, or which is to encourage economic development within the town. Town Council recommended forwarding this to the Planning Commission for the review and recommendations. So, discussion on this business investment strategic zone. And I think it's fair to say, if you turn over to page, back at page 12, the purpose is to provide economic incentives and regulatory flexibility that will do basically 3 things: attract visitors, make a substantial investment, and create new jobs within the town. And then if you drop down to the eligible area, the investment areas eligible for incentives are generally defined as developed areas showing signs of deterioration, underutilization, or areas in need of redevelopment. Pretty much the whole downtown across the way. We've had a lot of complaints, and rightly so. So, open the floor for discussion.
I think this is a great idea. I think this is something, looking at it from a real estate side, there's a program out there for USDA loans, which is pretty much right now the Linton Hall corridor, and anyone that's to the west of that Linton Hall corridor can pretty much get 100% financing for the mere fact that they're wanting to develop that land. So this is how I see it, being able to bring in these incentives for businesses to be able to come in and help them on those aspects. I mean, yes, the short term is that we might lose some revenue within real estate tax or different things along those lines, but long term wise, we're going to be able to prosper.
Right, and what Mr. Leach just said is kind of summarized on page packet 13. The incentive options are really threefold: to a % reduction in property taxes, a deferment of reimbursement of taxes of increased real estate value, and I guess those basic things. And really what they found, I know the previous town manager, when he was going around and putting this together, a lot of businesses are hesitant to reinvest or to invest in cleanup areas because their taxes go up. So this is a way between 1 and 5 years where the town council, in conjunction with the town attorney, can work with individual businesses in these strategic areas.
My question is, how does this work with the blight statute that we have? How would we go about using both together?
So there's several incentives. They would work together. Simple answer is they would work in tandem. The blight ordinance allows for incentives where the property owner can recoup some of the permit costs for demolition or remediation if they do it within a certain period of time. So that cost savings, and either from that exercise, combined with some of the deferment of taxes and deferment of reimbursement value, I think would kind of give you a trifecta, so to speak, of being able to incentivize people to work. Now, the only thing to be aware of is the property taxes are somewhat nominal. So if you're a small tax owner, obviously we're not reducing the tax of the Prince William tax, it's only the town tax. So it would probably need to be a basket of incentives, not just one, to encourage people to go. For instance, if you're only paying $6,000 a year for one, I think the Payne Lane property is only $6,000 a year. To some people, the percentage is not a lot. For some business owners, it may be. So I think it's going to be a case-by-case basis and pulling out all the tools that you have at hand to be able to make it to work successfully. So that was a long-winded answer. Hopefully I answered your question.
And they work in tandem, so they basically would help accelerate the using the blight ordinance with the incentives. Would it be an acceleration working in tandem? Is this a congruency that works time-wise? Because the areas we're talking about have been there far too long.
Part is going to have a willing property owner. If you say, we'll work with you to come up with a plan to address your blight, there's a series of reimbursements for that cost if you commit it within a certain period of time. By the way, if we find folks that want to reinvest in your property, there's an incentive for them to do so. So to me, it's going to be communication and providing some sort of outlay or some sort of cheat sheet, so to speak, that clearly outlines that program. If you do not have a willing property owner, then unfortunately that takes, and you start to move to the stick part of the blight ordinances where we can impose mechanics liens and do other types of things to compel property owners to do that. But this is the more friendly way of trying to move forward on that. So.
And those incentives fall on you? Is that part of your job? Or
Correct, to the town manager.
Town manager.
But it's, as you saw, the blight ordinance is more kind of a town manager, zoning administrator. This effort is in coordination with myself, the town manager, and the Main Street coordinator. What I would suggest, Mr. Chairman, sir, do you mind if I step in for a minute? I'll wait till your questions are over.
Go ahead.
Okay. Is we have to define that area. It generally talks about the blighted properties, but the introduction or the suggested article change refers to a business investment strategic zone on the map entitled Town of Haymarket Business Investment Strategic Zone. So we'll have to define that area. And then also, if you look through some of the references, it talks about having to refer to a business investment strategic, goals identified in the economic development and investment area chapters of the town comprehensive plan. Well, currently we don't have an economic or investment area plan in a comprehensive plan. So there will be some revisions. Talks about the kinds of uses that can be used to incur the incentive, but a lot of those uses we don't allow in town. So there's just going to be some technical revisions that I'll need to make.
Right, you brought up a point. I noticed in looking at they talked about a parking garage, commercial parking garage, commercial rec facilities, conference centers, cultural arts centers, movie theater, et cetera, et cetera. So, in those uses, wouldn't we want to update the language with our plan use map of what we currently just voted on that the property can be used for?
Exactly. So this was, I think, the initial draft. So what I would recommend to the commission is I can do a scrub of those references, have you begin to simply draw on a map what you believe to be the strategic zone, and then we'll continue to revise the draft, and once you're ready, we'll move it forward to the council.
So right now, any part of Haymarket would be eligible for this particular incentive, for this particular program?
Correct. The assumption, the way it's written right now, would apply to the entirety of the town. I think the intent was to focus that on more of our kind of Four Corners area downtown.
I think to conserve time, I would like you, if it's okay, the will of the PCs, to go back and scrub the language. We can I mean, there's no potential rush on this to get it up to the town councils. What I'd like to do is you go back, scrub the language, update the businesses of what really could be there,
Okay?
and then define the areas you see it, and then bring it to us next month.
Okay.
Let us look at it again, as long as there's no objection. And then at that point, if we're comfortable with the way it's rewritten, then we could recommend to move it up. And it would give us more time to look at this. And we all have those maps that we were given previous. Maybe we could just do some preliminary work,
Walking around. Yeah.
walk around, if that's okay.
A walk-around would be good,
Okay.
too. Maybe even start our meeting with a walk-around if possible. Well,
All
we
right.
can put that thought out there.
All right, let's do that.
Okay.
Sheriff, if you don't mind, put a walk around to begin our next meeting.
Would you like to consider that a work session starting at 6:30?
That would be fine, as long as everybody's good with that. Everybody can,
Everybody okay?
That's good.
because it was good when we walked around the Hanover before we went in the buildings. You know, it's one thing to sit here, it's another thing to walk the town. All right, that'd be great.
Especially with the background, having had a chance to study this.
Right,
before
okay.
we-
So work session will be at 6:30 in August. It's hard to believe next month's August. All right,
May I ask one question?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm not, an IDA, I'm not sure what an IDA is.
What page are you referring to? I'm
It's
sorry.
on page 17, and as a grant to the IDA to enhance the economic development of the town, I wasn't sure what an IDA was. Then the IDA shall make an annual performance grant.
So we have
IDA.
BIA, which is the
Yeah.
Business Investment
Business
Area Zone.
investment.
We
I
have-
couldn't figure out what the IDA was.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the term defined is, I'm sorry.
That's okay, all right.
that's a great question.
It's also mentioned in 3 and 4.
Yeah, I wasn't quite sure.
I am taking this over from Brian, so I'm also on a pretty steep learning curve as well.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll figure it out.
All right, any other questions? I'm not trying to squelch questions,
No.
just,
No, I think the scrubbing the language and defining the businesses and suggesting what specific areas the Four Corners are talking about, and getting a rewrite, a condensed one, would be great for the, and the walk around, to use that.
Yep.
To have it in our hand, walk around with that, and we start the meeting, that would be great.
We'll start at the underbelly of Haymarket.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Then there,
I'll never live that down.
not to throw a wet blanket on this, but, and let's presume, that it's your responsibility to administer this program.
Okay.
How do you force the non-compliant person, business? Once they have been incentivized, if that's the word, and they meet the obligations, providing jobs, et cetera, for, all the various steps along the way. But then they fail to, they let go the person that they hired.
That does become a enforcement component, and that's labor intensive. They do have the language on page 18 about the termination for non-performance, where essentially the town may give notice of the termination and may not make any incentives available after default's given. But you're right, at what point do you understand those elements are no longer being met? So that is going to be a maintenance component that we'll have to look into.
So there is an administration
Cost
to this.
or element?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I would say so.
that's a good point. Kind of like administering the sign ordinance and keeping up with that.
Right, same with the blight ordinance. There's a cost involved to putting mechanics liens on people's properties, so.
I guess the real question is it cost neutral, or, what's the cost benefit analysis? What's it going to cost versus what's the benefits?
In that regard, I think it's the indirect benefit. At some point, when the properties are cleaned up and people want to come in or encouraged to make the investment, then you'll start to see the increase in revenues, but it's not going to be an immediate return. It's kind of the long-term reinvestment that we're hoping for.
Job creation, I think, is a good.
Yes. Removing a barrier to development in the town.
Anything we can do to speed up this downtown revitalization, I'm all for, because it is long overdue.
This building back here took about 2 weeks.
I know. It can be done very quickly if you have a willing, motivated business. If they're not motivated, I think that's where that blight ordinance is going to come in handy, to maybe give a little sense of urgency.
Yes, sir.
All right, well, thanks, Commission. All right, if you'll do that, we'll do a walk around at 6:30. If we could have the updated scrub version, and then we can do a work session, obviously, as we walk around.
Yes, sir. I'll have the ordinance up scrubbed for text changes. I will have a draft map, and we will have those available for your tour starting at 6:30 in August.
All right, thank you very much. All right, moving on to, that was C. Moving on to D, 8D, which is an add-on, 6680 Fayette Street rezoning, Dogs Day Out. Based upon the joint public hearing last night and citizens' comments, the proposed business owners of Dogs Day Out have prepared a slide presentation. Does everybody have it?
Yes.
All right, so if you guys would like to go ahead and come on up and,
Mr. Chairman, I tee it up for you real quick while they get ready.
okay.
So as mentioned, we had the public hearing last night. What I wanted to refresh the commission's memory is this property is a 1-acre parcel on Fayette Street. It's currently zoned R1. So if you consider we are, and I always get this backward, looking at it upside down. We are right here in Town Hall. 6680 Fayette Street is this one-acre parcel right here behind, we call it the JB3 building where Remax is, and Giuseppe's Restaurant. It's currently R1. The town's planned land use map designates these 4 parcels along Fayette for transitional commercial uses. So it's anticipated that if these properties, such as the one in question, wish to come forward and convert from residential to commercial, this is the anticipated intensity of use for those parcels. So, did want to offer too, in your zoning ordinance, there is a series of criteria for the commission to review. Those include conformance with a comprehensive plan, consideration of, I am technically deficient, existing use character of the area, suitability of the property for various uses, trends of growth or change, current and future requirements of the town as to land for various purposes, as determined by population and economic studies or other studies, transportation requirements of the community and the town's requirements for parks, playgrounds, recreation areas, conservation of natural resources, preservation of floodplains, and finally, conservation of properties and their values, and the encouragement of the most appropriate land use throughout the town. So that is the charge for evaluating these sorts of applications. There was a number of issues or concerns that adjacent property owners did voice last night. The applicant has done a pretty yeoman's job in a short period of time of trying to answer all those questions. There's some tools in your toolbox that you have to address some of these concerns. So once they go through their presentation, we can talk, if the commission's so inclined, on how to potentially address some of the concerns. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Last night was a little disappointing for Jim and I, to be honest.
Excuse me real quick. Do you mind moving that? Thank you, sir.
You can bring it over here if you'd like. As I mentioned, it was a little disappointing last night. We've been working on this effort for 18 months, and it's been 6 months that we've been working on getting the property. The property is under contract, had a number of issues with the property that we've spent months with an attorney dealing with. There was a easement to the property from next door for an old well that was utilized on the property. And it took quite some negotiation back and forth with that landowner to have that easement removed so that from a commercial perspective, we could actually get funding to purchase the property. Last night, we heard the residents' concerns, and we understand them. And I think when people talk about, you know, a doggy daycare or a dog beauty parlor, they think of inside kennels everywhere and chain link fences and outdoor dogs barking. And this is not how a dog's day out is operated. I have some conceptual pictures at the end for you guys to see what we think we are asking the architect to build for us, so you can get an idea of what the look and feel would be for the property. We also have, at the very end of the PowerPoint deck, a layout for the property, how the interior will be configured in order to meet the needs for the business. So, Jim, do you want to go ahead and sit down? Okay. It doesn't matter. I'm fine. Thank you. So why a Dog's Day out in Haymarket? We believe there's that needed service in the town. Everyone that we have spoken to in the last 18 months has asked us, please put it in Haymarket. Don't go to Gainesville. Don't go to Bristow. We need Haymarket to have services, and for our animals, that's where we want to take them. We don't want to have to go across the Linton Hall corridor. And we looked over there. We did. And there's a lot more available over there. But we felt that it was important as a Haymarket resident, not in the town, in Prince William County, but to be a part of this community and grow our business here and have our customers that want to be in this area, have them have that availability. It actually has the lightest footprint of traffic. I know there were a lot of concerns last night about traffic in general and how it's going to work, but dogs don't drive. So there's not a dog coming in and leaving their car and another dog coming in and leaving their car. It's a repetitive all day long, mostly in the morning and mostly in the evening, but compared to other things that could go on that property, we feel like it's a fairly light footprint for the community to have from a traffic perspective. Again, further the walking town concept. So we believe that there will be a great number of town residents that will utilize this service, in addition to the new community that will be going in behind the property with the new townhomes there. Folks that live in townhomes typically don't have large areas in their backyard for the dogs to play. So we thought this would be a nice opportunity for those residents to have a place to bring their dogs as well. We're also going to create 10 to 15 new jobs. So for the town of Haymarket, there's some new creation there and a revenue for the town of Haymarket as well. And we're basically looking to blend in with the setting and the surrounding community. We're not trying to put up something that looks odd or out of place. Okay. And this just is a reminder of what the Town Center B1 district is, and I have folded up there personal services for the intent that we have, and then the use regulations for 58.177 for pet shops or dog beauty parlors. Okay, so the issues and concerns voiced last night: traffic, noise, sidewalks, parking, families with children walking on Fayette Street, views from adjacent properties, allergens, and B1 rezoning for future use. So from a traffic perspective, the concern was there was going to be an increased traffic on Fayette Street. It's a narrow road. There was not the ability to add additional traffic signals given the current location of Jefferson Street with the signal that exists today. And I think the thought was that the customers would come in the property and not have enough space to back out, and they would be driving down Fayette Street and turning around maybe towards the end of that street in Sherwood Forest. But what we'd like to do from a mitigation perspective is actually have a circular drive that goes around the entire building, so no one has to exit that parking lot, make a left onto Fayette to go around. They would have the opportunity to circle the building and then exit on Fayette. Most of the folks in the morning are going to be heading 15 to 66 because they're commuting into work. They drop their dogs off on their way to work in the morning. So they'll be making a right turn off of Fayette. And then the evening traffic patterns would be post-rush hour from a pickup perspective. The noise ordinance, this is just copied from the Town of Haymarket website information, but basically talks about noise from animals and where it's unlawful for persons to have intense barking or other harsh or excessive noises made by animals under his or her ownership or control at any time, so as to disturb the quiet, comfort, or repose of one or more members of the community. And that's the baseline there. And, you know, we have, you want to go to the next slide, some mitigation for this. So from an interior perspective, there's a product called K13, which is sound insulation, that's utilized in a number of the current Dogs Day Out locations in the Northern Virginia area. It basically looks like Rice Krispies that is sprayed on the interior, and when you make a noise, it absorbs the noise. So if you clap, you hear it once, you don't hear it echo in a large building with very tall ceilings. Same thing with a dog. If it barks and it stops. You know, the noise doesn't continue to escalate on it. It's used a lot in building sports facilities, television sound studios, things where they have quite a bit of noise and they need a quiet surrounding. So that's from the inside perspective as to how we're going to mitigate the noise. On the outside, we would comply on the excessive barking, and a Dogs Day Out would be responsible for taking inside any dog that displays behavior that doesn't comply, basically. I mean, we run the business, so if there's a dog that is a perpetual barker, they go out and do their business, they come right back inside. They don't get that playtime, per se. So we'd have to talk to the owners about, the dog's owners about those issues. So for sidewalks, there was a lot of concern last night. There's no sidewalks or pedestrian traffic walking up and down Fayette Street. And, you know, we plan to comply with the site plan regulations and provide funds into the town, you know, whether it's done when we open the facility, should we be able to open the facility, or, you know, at a later time when the town feels is necessary. But, you know, we understand that that would be part of our responsibility to have the sidewalks there, or at least fund them for when the time that the town would be ready for them. So we don't have any problems with that. It's just the other businesses or the other locations that are not businesses yet that don't have to comply to that. So they'd only have a partial on there. So from a parking situation, there would not be enough parking spaces for the number of dogs that the Addo facility can take care of each day. We've allotted for 12 parking spaces for a 6,000 square foot facility. We won't have a need for street parking. Addo's largest facility, which is in Vienna, Virginia, they've been open 11 and a half years. They average 100 dogs a day. They have a very large dog business there. And they're 9,000 square feet. They've never needed more than 6 spaces at any point in time. So they are a good baseline for us, I guess. And they don't have folks that are walking to them. So that's the good news there. Families with children walking on Fayette Street. So someone brought up a concern last night that they like to walk up and down Fayette Street, and they were concerned that if there were dogs in a facility, that either their children might be fearful or they may be fearful to bring their children up and down the street. But the dogs are contained. They don't run free. They're leashed from the time that they get out of their car and into the facility. Doors shut before the handoff actually goes to the employees of a Dogs Day Out. So we don't believe that there's any issue there. We like the fact that it's on Fayette Street and it is a quieter street, so we don't have to worry about, you know, a car coming out of nowhere and having an issue and hitting a dog or a customer as well. So you want to go ahead? Oh, okay. Views from adjacent properties. There were concerns last night that folks had a view into that property from their backyard, and they didn't want to look at dogs or look at, you know, a fenced area with dogs. But we wanted to bring up that we do have to provide the buffer with the landscaping, so they'd be buffered from that. They wouldn't have to see that, those potential issues that they think were there. And the lot abutted to the south by the parking lots on the east for the future retail residential complex, this part of the retail residential project abutting the site is planned for parking. So they're going to be parking right behind us as well. So it's not like there's going to be, a residence that are going to be planned right behind the property as well. Allergens. Someone brought up potential allergens in the air because of a concentration of dogs. I looked everywhere today to try to figure out what that really meant, and I couldn't find anything. I called some of the Dogs Day Out locations, and no one had ever heard of that or had that brought up. This gentleman explained that he was a pediatrician, and that's why he was concerned about it. We will comply with all the Virginia State Health guidelines. We will have the entire facility is air conditioned. We have an air handler and air filters that will be changed regularly. So we don't believe that there were any issues there from an allergen perspective. And then B1 rezoning for future use. So I guess the concern was, what if we go belly up, right? And what's going to come in after us if we were to sell the property and there may be something else that would come in. They wouldn't have control of that at that time. The residents wanted to be able to kind of pick and choose what was going in there. We don't have any problems with presenting proffers. We kind of have some recommendations of things we don't think, would ever go in there: a dry cleaner, a shoe repair shop, service station. I don't think you want to put a gas station on Fayette Street. Appliances and repair, a farmer's market. And then anything that would require a drive-through, a pharmacy, a fast food restaurant, or a bank. Those are things that, we're willing to say you can put them off, and that we wouldn't, you can put that in the, I guess the proffer goes with the land, is that correct? With the land. And with the land.
They are subject to amendment, but they would have to come back through the public hearing process.
And, this is an acre parcel of land, and we're looking at a 6,000 square foot facility on it. It's a pretty small footprint for that piece of property. I mean, there could be a 20,000 square foot facility that could be built on there. There's enough room for that on the property. So we feel like, given it is on a quiet street, that this type of property with the amount of traffic that it would bring would be much less of an impact to that street than other potential businesses that could come in if we were not approved. Okay. And then we also have some landlord letters from the other Dogs Day Out locations. We are the first that are trying to actually purchase land. The rest are leasing space. So these are letters from some of the other locations basically stating that, the area is clean, there's no issues, there's no noise issues, and that sort of thing, to try to give some reference to that. So Alexandria, Ashburn, and I think Vienna, right? It's the last one. Okay. So, and then this is the conceptual building. We're trying to go with a farmhouse look and feel with covered porches and steel tin roof. Something that's welcoming, something that would kind of comply with what Exit Realty has with the blue roof on it, and a similar color. We believe it would be able to go up quickly and fit in with the surroundings. Also comply with the ARB, obviously. And then this is the internal building layout. So you can see here, this is the covered porch that's on the rear of the property. There's a large apartment here for someone who will be a resident full-time in the facility, so that there's someone there overnight. The sales area, the entry, office space, grooming area, and then there's a large dog area, a medium dog area, a kenneling area, and those are for dogs that don't necessarily get along with other dogs, but somebody needs to leave them because they're going on vacation. We call those kennel dogs. And they are in a, what I call a condo, which is a wired kennel. And they get to go outside by themselves and be walked and so on and so forth, but they have a place to stay that's safe while their family is out of town. And then I'm too close to this, I can't read it. There's 4-foot walkways that go around. There's 3 foot on this side. There'll be a in the top portion over here, no, over on this side, on this side, there's a loft space that we're going to have for storage, and we'll have a lift in there so that we have ample storage, and the place is always neat and clean to be able to store things. Because, you know, it's a seasonal business, so summertime's always busy, Christmas time is always busy, holidays particularly. So when you don't need those extra facility pieces for those animals, then we have another place to store them. So we're not storing things outside. And that is all.
Could you, with that drawing up there, could you please show me where you would walk the dogs outside?
They're on the back side, so there's a covered porch here. And then that's on the back side of the property that is behind, so if you look, this is the entire property. Here's the building space here. This is the covered play area, so we'd like to have a place where when it's raining or snowing or so on and so forth, the dogs can have some outdoor space, but it's covered with a roof and it has a fence around it. And then if at all possible, in the future, we'd like to have like a fenced, a very tall fence area back here where the dogs could go out. It would be connected to the property so they're not let loose. There's a run basically from the back here to a fenced area for them to play. There's still quite a bit of property there before it abuts to the back parking area here. Did that answer your question?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Do these other dog stay-out facilities have outdoor walking areas? Are they enclosed?
One does, and that's in Alexandria. It's in the city of Alexandria.
But all the rest are enclosed inside?
Correct, because there's not ample space for them outside to be able to utilize it. They're in kind of business park or a warehouse area.
So you said Alexandria is the only one that's outdoors?
And I'd be happy to set up a walkthrough of the Alexandria facility and Ashburn, which is the newest location. So if you have any questions or concerns, you can kind of see it for yourself.
Are these other, excuse me, are these other places abutting residential areas?
They are not.
So they're all in commercial areas?
They are. Well, is Alexandria? Yeah, over by Eisenhower. No, most of them are in business parks or in warehouse districts.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have just a couple of questions,
Yes,
if I
sir.
could. First of all, I like the fact, I mean, obviously, I was one of them that spoke out last night. I like creating the circular driveway.
Okay.
That's important because we already have cars that come down, as I said last night,
Right.
that don't realize it's not an exit. I understand this sheet here is for Estrella, it's just to illustrate,
Uh-huh.
but it shows 17 parking places there. Is that just,
They put it in there, I think when we talked to Marshawn initially, we said 12. The idea there is if we have the additional space and we want to have additional parking, and if it's needed during off hours, then the town could utilize the parking.
and would your employees be parking in one of those 12 spaces, or two of those, or?
Yeah, probably 2 of those. And so if we go back to the example of Vienna, where they have 6 spaces, and they have 100 dogs during busy times, and they have not needed additional spaces, that should still give us ample parking.
Thank you.
Sure.
So how many dog we are talking about?
It's going to depend. Like when we start out, we may only have 10 dogs a day, right?
What maximum?
What's the
Max.
capacity? We could have 100 dogs a day. I doubt it, but it would be nice. There's 2 different types of dog services there where dogs are, well, there's 3 different types. There's grooming, right? So those dogs come and go during their time. They get a half a day of free daycare so that they get to play. And then they're groomed after that. Makes them tired and happy to be on the grooming table. Then there's half-day daycare, there's full-day daycare, and then there's boarding overnight for when someone's going out of town or is unavailable to pick up their dog that evening. So we may have 10 dogs boarding for the night, 30 dogs in half-day daycare, 10 dogs in full-day daycare. Okay, sure.
Just a question. If I understand one of the concerns is maybe the outdoor play area, would there be a way to maybe shift the building and maybe put the outdoor play area between you and the commercial in Washington?
Yeah, we can talk about that.
You understand what I'm suggesting? Is rather than having it here, which have it insulated on this side of the building, maybe move it over, have your circular driveway around the back.
So the only thing that may cause a problem there is the way the water comes down from the property above.
Oh, the stormwater.
The stormwater drains right down into that space. So we'd have to see what we can do about migrating that.
That was just one suggestion. Maybe
Yeah,
have
but
it
we can
insulated.
talk to the engineer about that.
That's about 2,000 square foot play area outside. Is that correct?
The covered area right
covered
now? Yes.
Roughly.
We could have, I think it says 2,000 square feet, but we've talked about having, the building as it exists today in that plan is 5,000 square feet, depending on the cost when we get it back from the bids for the building of the facility. We're either going to go 5,000 or 6,000 square feet, depending on those costs. And then that 2,000 square feet would either be 2,000 square feet of outdoor or 1,000 outdoor, and 1,000 of that would be enclosed with the regular space. Additionally, from a traffic perspective, in the future, we plan on buying an old school bus and having a pet taxi service. So for those folks who can't get to us in time in the morning, maybe they leave before 6 a.m. or are unable to get to us after 7 or at 7 p.m. before we would close for the evening, we'd have a pet taxi service to allow pickup and drop-offs at their home. That's going to be a little ways down the road once we have some revenue generation. Yeah, the Alexandria, Swan Avenue office does that, and Ashburn currently does today. They have a pet taxi service.
I have a couple questions. What would be the max number of dogs in the play area at a time?
Ooh. So the play area outside, we would take them out by size. So the mediums would go out together, the smalls would go out together, and the larges would go out together. I can't imagine that you would have more than 50 dogs out at one point in time.
Right, but 50 dogs at one time can be a lot of barking outside.
Right. So from a noise perspective, if we have dogs that are barking excessively, then we bring them inside.
But dogs are going to, I mean, what would, I guess the question is, what would be the definition? That was my next question. I made a note. What is the definition of excessive?
Annoying?
I know, but annoying to a resident and annoying to a business owner
Right.
who's a dog lover.
Right.
We have a dog.
Right. Mm-hmm.
She barks on occasion, especially when our kids make her bark.
Right.
That's a whole other topic. But
I
I guess
can,
my question is, you've got 50 dogs out there. That's a lot of dogs with a lot of potential. I can understand the residents' concerns
Right.
with
And
noise.
that's at the high end, right? That's on a busy 4th of July weekend, that sort of thing. I mean, 50 dogs, if we're looking at 100 max coming in, it's probably going to be 35 to 40, so less than 50. Happy to get some video of the Alexandria facility where they have some outdoors so that you can see kind of, and theirs is a little different. They have a 4-foot chain link black fence in a park-like setting in the back of their facility. And we've gone, well, we used to take our dog there. Dogs don't bark outside. And we don't understand, you know, unless new people are coming out. But they play, they lay down, they get some sunshine. I mean, they're tired. They play all day in the facility. There's playground equipment inside the facility for them, slides and stairs and all kinds of different things for them to play on. So when they're going outside, they're relieving themselves and laying down, enjoying the sunshine. They may play. There may be dogs that go out and play, and there may be dogs that go out and bark. But that's not what typically occurs when the dogs go outside.
Right, I guess my follow-up question is that your busy times are holidays. That's when a lot of residents are going to be having their outdoor cookouts. It's going to be their busy times too, so you have neighbors.
Right. We can make accommodations for those times.
Right. I'm just thinking, for me, 50 dogs out at one time is going to be a lot of noise.
And
Being a dog owner myself.
Yeah, there's two people that would be going out with the dogs. It's not like they're just going out on their own. The employees go out. They're with the dogs at all the times while they're moving through the facility.
Now, you mentioned that the only other one outdoor is Alexandria. That's next to a highway, I believe you said.
Eisenhower Avenue.
Okay, and this one would be the only proposed one in a residential neighborhood.
Correct.
So,
The others aren't in small towns. I mean, we're trying to bring
Right.
something to a town environment where the town residents can utilize the service and have that walkable service to them.
right,
And this is a little bit different than, the city of Alexandria, which is a lot larger than the town of Haymarket. Ashburn is a mega suburb, right?
right. And I appreciate what you're trying to do. And as a dog owner, it'd be sure nice not to have to load my dog in the car where I could just walk
Right.
her up the street. I like the plan personally. I'm not speaking for the commission at large, but just envisioning, 50 dogs out at one shot, that seems like an awful lot.
Well, if you want to make some recommendations, then we can follow those guidelines.
And they would all be in the same enclosed area together?
Yes.
And when you guys first came and presented, you weren't going to do an outdoor space.
Right. Well, so there's two spaces here. There's the outdoor that's enclosed, and then we're also going to ask for, and that's during the site plan piece, the outdoor fenced-in area that's separate from the building itself that's connected, right? So there's two different areas. We would like to have the ability to have both so that the dogs can get some sunshine as well. But if that's not something that's going to be agreeable, then
You could still do it.
we could. I mean, the other facilities do outside of Alexandria, do all their business inside. But the clients always ask, is there a place for them outside? We don't want them going to the bathroom inside. So we're trying to accommodate that.
And also, my last question will be, was there any thought being given that the property to the rear is going to be developed into a parking lot to access from that end?
Yes, so we talked about, Jim and I have talked about that quite at length, and we would be willing to talk about putting a pedestrian walkway from the top of Fayette Street on our property all the way to the back to allow pedestrians to walk through without having to go around on Washington Street. We've also talked about if there could be an apron from that side made available. We could also have another exit from the property out that side and then right on to 15. Or I guess it goes to Washington Street and then 15.
I'd like to see more of that. I think that would.
We would welcome that. We would welcome that if that's something that would be agreeable.
One of my concerns, and I guess this is kind of putting on my VDOT hat, is congestion already at Fayette and Washington at different times of the day. I go in early. I leave home at 5:30. The wife
Okay.
leaves at 6. But even at 6 sometimes, they're backed up there pretty good with. We only have 30 homes in 29 in our subdivision, and then I think there's 5 other homes. And I know at different times of the day, especially during rush hour, to get out onto Washington Boulevard, especially if you're going to go left toward Gainesville, it can be a nightmare. I mean, you can sit there for a while. We already have a little bit of a sight distance issue trying to turn left off of Fayette onto there. So the stop bar there, people are going further and further out into Washington. And so that's my biggest concern. It would be ideal because I agree with Matt. I love the ideal of this. We have our Pomeranian too. But my concern is more about the traffic that it could bring. If there was an alternate entry exit, I think that would be, a good idea. I just don't know, being brand new, and not only in Haymarket, but on the planning commission here, I'm just not sure what the other options would be on the other side, as far as exit, and Fayette not being an entry and exit point.
One of the challenges you have, I guess, is because you've anticipated by your plan some sort of commercial for all those lots between here and Sherwood Forest, there's a reasonable expectation that there's going to be some sort of commercial use. So the question would be, and the intent of the transitional commercial area is to have lower intensity uses so that you don't overwhelm the traffic network. So there is some ability to predict the ITE standards that are used to estimate trips. You could ask the applicant's engineer to estimate the trips for this size of facility. I believe what they're suggesting is it's compared to some other use that may be developed either in B1 or TC district, might be more overwhelming to the road network. I share the concerns. All three lots, let's say, I always anticipated all those lots before the residential houses that were recently redone. I anticipate at some point all those lots being consolidated and developed as one use. The fact that we now have residential and we have these smaller lots, trying to come up with a reasonable mix of uses that don't overwhelm the street but still allow some redevelopment of those parcels, that's kind of a challenge. And so how to solve the traffic issue, we had said yesterday, once the interchange, let me back up. You want traffic in a small town because you want them by your businesses. The volume we anticipate to come down once the interchange is done. When you develop, if we were to consolidate all those lots and develop, there may be a larger justification for that intersection being improved. Having each one of these lots come on individually, it becomes a challenge to have that one owner have to bear the responsibility of fixing the site distances and stuff like that. So it's kind of that dance and kind of that mix. And so the offer to proffer out some of these other uses may try to reduce the development intensity in the future. So it will be helpful to the commission having that trip generation, understanding the hours of operation, and hopefully maybe that'll address some of the traffic volume concerns on trying to get in and out of Fayette.
And I guess, traffic is traffic with Chick-fil-A and other things coming on board. And having lived in this town for close to 20 years, some of us have seen traffic grow. I guess the other thing is to consider what could go in there, and the traffic would be year-round, where this would be more seasonal. I think a trip study would be a good thing.
I think it would be a good thing. We heard a lot of concerns about traffic last night. You heard them. We all heard them. We also heard concerns about the width of the road, walking, children, et cetera. This is outside my expertise. I was thinking maybe we could ask Chief Noble to take a look at it from his perspective and think about the parking issues, the traffic issues, the safety issues that we heard about last night, and give us some feedback from his. Basically, he's got knowledge we don't have. Give us some feedback from his looking at it, because he's expert.
So what does he see as pedestrian and traffic issues on the road?
Yes, there were safety, there were traffic, there were congestion, we heard a lot of very articulate speakers on all of these issues.
I thought I'd addressed them, have I not?
You have addressed them, and your perspective is a perspective for a wonderful business. His perspective is a town perspective, so we need different perspectives, is what I'm saying. I'd like to hear what he says, too. He's not adversarial, he's just a fact finder. I see him as a fact finder.
Right. I just don't know how he's going to understand any differently that the dog comes out of the car on a leash, into the facility on a leash, hands off to the employee inside.
Oh, no, I'm not talking risk, I'm talking width of the
Traffic.
road, I'm talking cars passing each other. One parent or one person last night mentioned this car stopping while another car goes around. So I'd like him to look at it, thinking of those comments. Now, we'd have to say, these are the different comments we heard. What do you think, Chief Noble? You come with an expertise on this that I don't have.
I think a lot of that going around a car to allow is because there's street parking that currently exists today. There's just not enough space. But
There aren't-
where we're at, there's nobody parking on the street prior to us because we have commercial property, on either side of us there on the front.
I
So-
think that there's also the traffic taking a left turn, could easily block up Fayette Street. As you say, sometimes you're sitting there for quite a while. And even if most of the people are turning right to get to 6615, all you need is one person taking a left. And periodically, that's going to happen.
That could be a resident as well. too.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And that resident would be a little bit angry if there was another dog person who was trying to turn left, holding up 10 cars who were trying to turn in the middle of rush hour. Or if you're on Washington trying to turn left into Fayette at a busy time of day.
I understand absolutely everything you're saying. I guess my perspective is the town voted on this to be transitional commercial at one point in time. They approved it, even knowing that they're, width of the road issues. And, it's very possible that if we are not approved and we have to go elsewhere with our business, that a larger business could come in that's driving more traffic than what we would be doing. So,
Marshawn, when did our planned land use map change for those 3 lots? Do you know roughly?
2008.
2008.
To just kind of respond to one earlier question, so there's 2 options to improve the road width and the pedestrian connectivity. Either as each individual lot develops, which we've seen at Coral Center, we've seen at Leeberry, we've seen in front of Foster's, in front of Winterham. As those properties develop, the individual property owners expanded the roadway, put in the curb and gutter, provided the sidewalks. In this case, the way it develops now, each individual owner will provide their piece, but it becomes intermittent. The other way is to have the town step in and provide that improvement, which we're doing with the streetscape on the east end of town. So those are the 2 ways that you complete the road network. You provide the appropriate width, you provide the appropriate pedestrian connectivity, you provide the street lighting to provide that safety. So that becomes the trade-off, I guess. If the town wants to put it in their CIP to provide that connectivity, then that's a separate exercise. But each of the individual owners will provide their piece until such time that either the town steps in or the neighbor or develops and connects the dots, so to speak, if that makes sense.
I'm sorry.
No problem.
Depending on what the prescriptive right-of-way is for that road, do we know what it is?
I want to say right now it's a 30 to 40-foot prescriptive easement,
Then,
but
and-
VDOT owns all the roads. or
Yeah, and I was
maintains
going
all
to
the
say, I
roads.
can check that out tomorrow and tell you exactly what it is, but I didn't know if you knew. The other factor is, depending on what the prescriptive right-of-way is, and you're talking about widening, then you're talking about right-of-way acquisition, and that's very expensive.
Correct, and that's why the preference is to have the individual owners provide that frontage as they develop.
And that's basically owners giving the land away. I would tell you, if that happens, that would be wonderful. I'd have to deal with this daily, and I've not seen it happen yet. But, again, depending on what the prescriptive right-of-way there is and everything else, and depending on what the town and VDOT would want to do together.
And we still have the option at the back of the property, if we had an apron there, that we could exit to the other land that's being developed, because that would give another exit. You don't have to go out Fayette Street.
Have you talked to Guy Road?
Have not. It was just an idea. So
Almost be nice of one way. If you
Yeah.
come in off Fayette, you have to exit the other way. that would alleviate the problem of backing those that live there going out. I mean, I don't know if that's an option or not.
May I
but-
ask you a question? As
Sure.
the newest member of VDOT? Four-way stop. Would that be allowed at that kind of intersection?
There, our traffic engineering, probably not, that being a primary road, considered a primary road. I don't think, and it being adjacent, I mean, right next to a traffic signal, I just don't think it would, I don't think it would fly.
Thank you.
But that's, if the town wanted to go with that, then we would have to go to the traffic survey section and ask them to look at that. But again, with my experience now, I'm in charge of Loudoun County, not Prince William. But I can tell you, I've not seen that happen either because of the proximity of a traffic signal already.
Well, let me ask you this to the commission. Would it be feasible, we're already coming in at 6:30 on our next meeting, would it be feasible to start over at this property at, say, 6:15? Just kind of get a first-hand look at this property. We could walk over there, we could see people coming in and out
Prime time.
during prime time if we bumped it up. I guess listening to put the burden of fixing the traffic flow in Haymarket on any said business in town is a huge burden for anybody. You know, with that said, it being B1, there could be, you know, any business on an acre could have a lot more than 12 parking spaces. So I think in fairness, I think we should go walk it ourselves. We've seen the presentation, we've heard the public comments, gives us a chance to go through this again, formulate more questions, in fairness to the applicant, because if I was on that side, I'd want due diligence where emotion's taken out and you just look through it. I think we owe it to them, so we can maybe show up at 6:15, walk it. In the meantime, you could do some of what you do, the traffic. We could get with Chief Noble. Maybe he could, I'd recommend at 6:15, if you all are agreeing, that he walk with us.
I'd like that.
It'd be helpful to have some additional direction, some of the remedies that they've prescribed here. It'd be helpful, I think, for them to have some feedback. You're talking about a proffer statement, which would talk about some of these elements. The idea to exclude certain uses, you know, is that an idea that you support? To give them some direction to start to look at some amendments so that they can bring it back to you and have you respond to that, providing the internal circulation, the buffering and the screening. Was there any
I think
here that you didn't support?
I think the two biggest things I've heard, and being brief last night, obviously I wasn't here, again, I apologize, is the traffic, the safety of people in the community, and the noise. So to me, you know, traffic, we have experts that can help us with the chief, Mr. Shannon over there, obviously Marchant. As far as the noise, I would like you all to think about, you know, is it feasible in a residential neighborhood to have 50 dogs out at a time? Could you cut it back to 10 at a time, or something to where, you know, I have to put myself, I'm the next door neighbor. I live on this end. Okay, there's a kennel down here, a veterinarian, you walk by, you hear dogs barking, but I've never heard the people adjacent across the street complain. I don't know what type of sound barrier they have in there. You can hear it, it's faint, but the residents are across the street. You have the church next door, there's a vacant parcel on the other side of it.
I actually live right behind it.
Okay, so,
You can hear some of the barking from the cages inside. Other than that, the noise is typically.
right, but barking muffled as opposed to 50 dogs running around. It only takes
Yes.
one time where
Yeah.
people,
How many dogs is reasonably would there be in that hospital?
So they have, and you can't see it from the road, but they have an outside area where they walk the dogs. I don't think they have any organized play back there. I haven't, the only barking I've ever heard is from inside the facility when they have the door open. I have not heard a lot of barking from dogs that use that enclosed area out back. But I don't know if it's onesies and twosies or if it's any larger volumes.
We could take them out 10 at a time, but then they're out for 15 minutes, and then the next crew comes out. So they'd be out for a longer period of time, if there were that many dogs, if there were 50 dogs.
I guess you have to balance the animals' rights versus the people's rights. I'm a people right person.
Right.
They're an animal. I mean, I love dogs, but,
No, we understand that.
right. So, if,
You mentioned a video of, you have such a video?
No, I can ask the Alexandria. I know they
Oh.
have a video camera on the outside play area. And sometimes they post snippets to Facebook so that the dog owners can see their dogs outside playing or inside playing or whatever.
Does it include sound?
I don't know. I will ask. Yeah, I think it does. I'll have to ask Colleen, who owns that facility. But if I
If
get
they
it,
do
I'd
have it,
be happy to share.
it would be good to have.
I think the outside fenced areas is also a huge concern for everybody here. I'm hearing that, I'm feeling that, maybe I shouldn't say that, but that's just with all of those dogs out there. That's, I think the pediatrician's comment about allergens in the air was also outside when you have that many dogs in a neighborhood. Correct me if I'm wrong, because that's where you would have all the noise as well. When you initially came and we believed it would be no dogs outside.
Well, we talked about the fact that we might have dogs outside and that we would also potentially offer to the town of Haymarket a park for dogs, public.
Right.
If we needed to do that in order to be able to gain some leeway there, so that because there's no area currently in the town of Haymarket where you can take your dog to a public park.
You did say no dogs would be out past 7 o'clock, 7 p.m.?
Correct.
Okay.
It would be in probably before,
Probably before 5 o'clock.
right before 5.
My wife and I used to take our dog out to a place out on Route 50, and we had to pay extra for outdoor time. And it, a couple times we went over there, we could hear dogs barking around out there. I have no idea how many they had out there. But that's a commercial area, not residential. So I really think, the consideration, as you mentioned, about, no more than 10 dogs or whatever. I don't know. I think that would make a big difference. I have to agree with you. You get 50 dogs out, and I don't see how they're not going to be barking at each other, playing, because they're just be playing.
That's a concession we wanted to make.
Yeah.
We hear your concerns. We
Sure,
want
okay.
to fit in with the town. We want to follow all the rules. And
The one in Ashburn, does it have outdoor?
It's in a business park.
yes, business park. I think it could, but I think
It's
the way-
zoned for it, but there's just no space available for it.
What's the name of that one?
The dogs stay out.
Oh, that's, okay.
So if you go to adogstayout.com,
I think the gentleman gave us a pen last night, because I'm just thinking I may just drive by anyway, since I work out here anyway. It'll be
We went there.
did you?
We did after meeting you in March.
Okay.
what'd you think?
We were impressed by, first of all, how quiet it was. There was no smell. It was very, very clean. We were both concerned about the fact that the dogs didn't get out.
I also, from the point of view, if we have a dog, and there's no way I'd leave her in a place where she'd have to excrete on the floor, because she'd come home and excrete on our floors. She's just not that bright. They said to me, our dogs don't do that, and I just said, well, mine would, and that would be a deal breaker for me, frankly. It took me too long to train her. So, but at the same time, it was dead quiet. You talk about this product, it is a quiet product. And the films, et cetera, and that's what brings me to the outside part. I can see the need for the outside, but in a residential area, I really wouldn't want all those dogs barking during the day if I lived nearby. From my point of view, I wouldn't want that.
And we hear that concern, and we're willing to work with you on limiting the number of dogs that are out at one time. We just want to have the ability to have the dogs outside. So, just like your concern, a lot of customers have the same concerns. They want their dog to be able to go outside and relieve themselves versus doing it inside, and that provides that space.
And once you have that many dogs relieving themselves outside, you have smells. aside from noise, you have smells. I mean, we have dog problems already in Haymarket, frankly, where people do not clean up after their dogs. That's a true concern as far as I'm concerned, because I walk my dog all the time and we clean up after. But there are people who don't. And if you had 50 dogs in the yard, you know.
You have to, there's a 30-second rule.
Yeah.
The dogs have to be clean, if something drops, it has to be cleaned up within 30 seconds. And they do. And as you saw in the facility, it's clean. It smells, it doesn't smell like urine, it doesn't smell like
No.
feces. It's clean because they understand that that's part of the hygiene, and people don't want to walk into a facility that smells bad.
No.
I'm going to leave my dog there, right? So same would apply outside. Same would apply outside.
How many inches of K-13 are you all applying?
That I don't know.
I think, Chaz, I think like 5 inches. I might not be exactly right, but I think it was 3 to 5.
3 to 5, okay. Because I was looking up, I wanted to do the research on the K-13, and it's good stuff. It definitely isn't. And then I was doing research on a dog's bark and what their pitch is, and their pitch is anywhere from 400 to 500 HZ. And so I was just curious to see how many, because I was on, I think it's Spray On is the company
Yes.
that does the K-13, and just looking at their chart. So I was just curious to see how much of K-13 you all were actually going to be applying. So somewhere between 3 to 5 inches.
Yeah, I believe we'll follow with
the
Chaz,
guidelines
the
are
guidelines with
from-
Chaz, yeah.
Okay. And then have you spoken to Miss Bailey at 6670 Fayette Street?
So our realtor, the listing agent, which is Brian Garcia,
Okay.
our attorney, everyone has spoken with her or her daughter. She doesn't currently live in that property. Her daughter is currently living in that property. She's in a managed care facility right now. So we had to go through a lot of negotiations in order to even get some of the current easements that were on the property removed. So she is aware of what we're doing.
She's aware. Is she in support of, or?
I would assume so, otherwise she probably wouldn't have relieved the easements.
And then I'm assuming since Mr. Garcia is the listing agent, he is,
We spoke to his wife, and they have 2 labs, and
and they're in support of it.
Yes.
They are, and they're on vacation, otherwise they would be here.
Oh, no, I know Brian personally. So
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yes, indeed. Excellent.
All right.
And one more, Joe Giuseppe.
We talked to Josie.
Okay.
Joe wasn't available when we went to the restaurant that
Okay.
day, and she said, I don't have any problems with it. Welcome to the neighborhood. And she was very kind.
Okay.
So.
Excellent.
All right, I think at this time, to respect everybody's time, especially Sherry being here late last night, these are all good questions. They're all viable questions. If you could go back, come up with, you've heard the concerns about 50 dogs out from pretty much everybody that said, if you could come back, look at your business model, come up with a recommendation. The traffic's the traffic. We can, do the experts. If we could get Chief Noble to walk with us that day at 6:15, and you come up with, if he could walk it ahead of time, you could check on the traffic study. Let's walk over and take a look at it.
Currently, the property is well overgrown. It's probably 4 or 5 feet. When we staked, the bush hogging is being done this weekend.
Right.
So,
Thank
so
you.
you know, if you drive by there, it
Oh.
looks like a jungle growing right now.
So does Harover Park, so don't worry about it. It looks that way too. And I
It
live
looked that way
back
a couple
there.
months ago.
yeah, it
With all
looked
the
nice,
rain,
but yeah, it's true.
And Marshawn's idea about where you put the outside thing in terms of to mitigate the noise and the location near residential, and not, architecturally, maybe things could be sashayed around, and
Yeah, we could move it over if we're going to have
and-
15 dogs. We could move it instead of having the whole big thing. We could maybe move it to the left side, closer to the.
To the restaurant.
yeah, I'm
Why?
just, throw that
Yeah.
out
Oh,
as
yes, we're totally willing to.
that.
We want to work with you. We want to make this work. We're rule followers. That's what we do. So we want to be here, and we welcome your suggestions. And we'll do our best to come back to you with a proposal that will meet your needs.
All right, well, thank you for coming.
And another thing is just consider of exit from the back of the property.
Which,
How do
would,
we do that? Do you,
yeah,
Well,
that would,
we can talk about that. Because it's private property, obviously the primary access would need to be on the public street. That would probably require some reciprocal easements. In other words, you're crossing somebody's private property to get out to Washington Street through the fairgrounds, and there's an easement that you could provide to allow that. What you don't know is if Mr. Gravitt would charge for that. Sometimes there's a fee that exchanges with it, and there's the cost that goes into providing those documents. So it's doable, it just takes a little bit of time, and depending upon how agreeable the parties are, it may or may not happen. So we can get you Guy Gravitt's
Okay,
information.
perfect.
Well, thanks for,
Do you want us to attend at 6:15 next month, or you want to walk it on your own?
sure. I would like you to be there. That way, I mean,
If you have questions.
there's no secrets here. We want to do our due diligence, so you're more than welcome to come. I appreciate coming tonight. I'm not trying to run you out, but we have other things we need to do. and-
Just one last comment about this, which you put together, obviously, in 24 hours' time. This was marvelous.
Thank you.
And the way you addressed the concerns of the people and ourselves. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Shannon, I looked it up real quick. So the current width of the road is 18 feet, 18 to 19 feet, and the easement, or at least the right-of-way that's being shown online, is between 35 to 37. So I don't think the idea would be to widen it more than that, but certainly more than the 18 feet that's out there today.
Yeah, the problem with the width now, even the 18 with parking on there, that
You can't do
limits, you
on-street
still can't
parking.
pass two cars.
Exactly.
And
So,
you have to think, Exit Realty already has 14 spots. Then that, I call it the Remax building, has roughly 50 spots of parking there. So now you're looking 50 plus 14, 64 plus another 12. You're looking at 76 spots.
okay, well, thank you for that feedback.
That was helpful.
Yeah, when they sent this to me, I was like, wow, that's,
I like the fact they're proactive.
yes.
All right, let's move on.
Okay.
The next item of business is the Town Center Master Plan. And if you turn to the second page, Marchant, my understanding is basically the buffers, the property's not big enough to install the proper 20 to 25-foot buffers. If you look at the tree line there in the back and along the sides, if you want to, basically what they're trying to do is create the effect of a 25-foot buffer with less buffer area. So do you want to speak to that,
I can do it
please?
quickly. So we're trying to retrofit an existing property to meet our current ordinance. It's a challenge. The primary reason why, well, number one, you review site plans, but the reason why you needed the hearing, again, to orient you, Washington Street, Jefferson, Hallfish, Town Hall, Post Office, Copper Cricket, is we have a 25-foot buffer that's required here and a portion of here. We require perimeter parking lot landscaping. And you really realize today we don't have any on-site vegetation. So you're trying to meet the standard as best you can while at the same time providing the 70 spaces that are necessary to support all the commercial space that we have. So it's a combination of perimeter screening, interior parking lot landscaping. We require street trees along the frontage. We've had to drop one or two of those trees to accommodate the public space on the corner and also some reduced space to accommodate a turn lane on Jefferson. Also some perimeter parking lot landscaping. So what's key to this plan, too, is we're removing a lot of asphalt. Most of the asphalt is coming around the post office where the cut-through used to be. That'll be taken out. A lot of the gravel area around the Hallfish House will be reclaimed as green space. The buffer along the back wall, we're going to bring that out 10 feet. Right now, it's only about 1.5 feet. So that's the nature of what we're trying to accomplish. So, and so I think the concern about having, or the suggestion that you come to work session is just to be able to vet any public comment that you may have gotten at the hearing and then answer any questions about it. So.
These changes, these zoning changes, or these easement changes, or whatever specifically they're called, they would only be specifically for town center. They would have no other application in town. Because we make an exception for this, does it then carry on that like somebody else
A lot of
says?
precedent?
Yes.
Not necessarily. I think what the ordinance says is you can either meet the standard or a standard that meets the intent. And right now, the zoning administrator, myself, has the discretion to make that call, but you still have to hear it in public hearing. I don't believe that it would create a undue or a precedent that could be abused, for so to speak, by other property owners, each site specific. What we would argue is, in fact, we're improving the site because we're trying to bring it up to the code versus someone else who's developing a green space, so to speak, and trying to reduce it to get more density. So,
I mean, I like the fact there's a lot less asphalt and more green. I remember Miss Carroll at our last, if I recall, my memory serves me, she was concerned, as a lot of others of us were, that it's not just a massive parking lot in the middle of town. I like the fact it has a sitting wall, if you will. It's all one elevation. There's a lot more green space.
and we add about 20 spaces to the property. So this is a preliminary plan. Once you make your recommendation, the council votes on it, and then the final engineering will come into play, and I'll bring it to you for your approval. Part of the contract was providing alternate funding sources to offset capital costs to make it happen. I believe the council directive was to maybe refocus on the facade and implement this in later phases. But the idea is to get it ready and approved so that when you're ready to move, you can execute. So,
One other thought I had was, like where the police cars are, where people who work at town hall are, would there be a statement for policemen, town hall workers? I mean, I worked at school, we had specific parking areas. So would we leave certain open areas in the front for the Joe Public and have police cars be around the back? Or would there be any protocol for parking? I know that sounds small, but it isn't, in fact, when people come to a building, and people will be coming to this building.
so I think in this case, a lot of the parking behind the building, that's just a question of managing that parking, designated parking.
Right.
If you've been to Food Line lately, you'll notice the main parking lot in front of the door is all white marked spaces, and then there's yellow spaces off to the side. That's distinguishing between employees and customers. So yes, I believe there has been some discussion. But given the way we've changed the building for the police department, we expect that this is going to be mostly the police parking against the Jefferson. Employee parking likely behind the building, and then customer parking for the whole fish, either along the side or maybe some shared parking with the police department. So, but that's something we'll need to work out as the plan comes underway. It's a good point. So, when I worked in Middleburg, we had a problem with on-street parking, where a lot of tenants would complain about parking, and you'd find out they were parking in front of their business.
Right.
Yeah.
So you have to start putting meters up, and that seemed to take care of that real quick.
And we're going to try to avoid meters.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to suggest otherwise. I was
No,
saying
no, I mean,
that
that it is.
it's like
it is-
water. People are going to.
Right, it's a concern.
Yep.
And also, we need bike racks. I'm just going to say that for the 17th time. But
Yes.
We never heard that before.
I appreciate the bike. So you're looking for us to push this back to the town council, correct?
Yes, sir.
Are you all comfortable with this, having studied it enough?
A little bit, yeah.
Last night we had these, it's part of the packet we had last night, these various pictures, and you have A, B, and then you had, what was it, two-way.
Yes, sir.
So in a sense, it's almost like choosing one of the three with allowing for the various, whatever, small changes that have to be made.
Correct. So what this represents is a combination of what the engineer felt was the best of all three.
Oh, I see, we're within this. This is much too busy for blind people like
What's
myself.
that? The site plan? Yeah, I'm sorry. But
I mean,
the master plan.
These are easy to follow.
This is much
The
more.
master plan had was charged with providing three concepts.
Yes.
and this was deemed the best efficient use of space. In the memo I charged, there was like 7 charges that this plan was supposed to achieve, and this was felt to be the combination of all 3 that best met those objectives. So,
We did spend some time last night going over these 3 plots and discussing pros and cons of each one and possible scenarios. And I'm comfortable trusting the town council to sort of kick this ball up to them at this point. But I'm just going to speak for myself there, because I've sort of traveled those
She
paths.
wanted a bike rack.
I did want a bike rack.
It's not part of the schematic here.
we can take a red pen right now and locate that bad boy.
Put in, call it the Maureen Carroll bike, whatever.
And I second your point. I mean, having been on the previous council, just transitioned off, we spent a lot of time discussing this. It's a small piece of property, trying to get the most bang for the buck with the most parking, the most green space, the best use of the property. I'm comfortable as well pushing it up. Because really at this point, I mean, the council's done a lot of work, not that we don't have a role certainly, but unless there's any red flags, I would recommend we just vote to push it up and let them do what they do.
Yes, I can't wait to see this area. And now you're working here. I'm sure you can't wait even more than me, but I can't wait to see this finished, this completed.
We're new, and I'm excited about it. I was last night when I saw this, so.
This is a good thing.
So do we make a motion? Is that how you want to do? We don't have
Yes, sir.
anything
You would,
scripted.
I can borrow the motion from last night. I'm sorry.
I have it right here.
All right, Mr. Carroll, would you mind making a motion?
I'll be happy to. Oh, except we don't want that one. I didn't have it, I beg your pardon.
I got it. I got it if you don't have it.
Go ahead.
I move that the planning commission forward preliminary site plan PRE 20150504 to the Haymarket Town Council.
Do we have a
I
second?
will second that.
With a friendly amendment, with a recommendation of approval.
With a recommendation of approval.
Again, second it.
All right, could you make a caveat that we would like a bike rack?
Certainly, seriously.
I will.
I think in a walk-in town, that's
I will make
certainly,
sure I share.
With
okay.
and I'm not being sarcastic, with a minimum of how many
I would
capacity?
say at least a half dozen, because, I mean, people do bike.
Okay.
And we want to encourage more biking.
We have bike lanes in town, so that
Right.
would,
Okay.
all right, any
I
other?
will buy
dis-
one, too.
Six separate bike racks, or a bike rack that holds 6.
I would say a bike rack that holds 6, or else a couple that hold 3 or
Okay.
4.
Cool.
You know, whatever aesthetically fits, because I know aesthetics are important as well.
Sure.
At
And
the
safety.
VDOT Park and Rides, they have, we have them there as few as 6 and as many as 12 racks. So I don't know if it's just a 6 or 12 you can get, or you can get any combination between, but I agree, a minimum of 6.
All right, any other discussion? All right, roll call vote, please.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Excited, yes.
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 All right, thank you. So that's unanimous. All right, moving on. ARB liaison. We need to appoint somebody as a liaison from the ARB. Do we have any?
If there's not someone who actually, excuse me, I don't want to say it that way. If there's someone who wants to do it, I'll be more than happy to pass that baton over to them. If there's not someone who does not want to do it, I'll be more than happy to continue with it. We vetted it through the town attorney to make sure that there was not any, how do you want to say, obviously there's always like a check and balance, but since I'm on the town council and I'm a liaison to the PC, am I also allowed to be a liaison on the PC to the ARB? And Karen said that it was okay. But if someone would like to do it, I'd be more than happy to pass that baton over.
It's an important position that carries a lot of weight, and I think continuity is good, especially with everything. So I would be more than happy to nominate Mr. Leek.
I think Mr. Leake's done a great job. I also think, I'm speaking myself, I'd like to attend a few of the meetings just to get a feel for it, because I haven't been to it. And not to take your job, believe me. You know, just to get that other flavor, because you bring other ideas about town to us here, and it's part of our overall education. So maybe I'll try to get there and maybe.
20th of this month.
Okay. Just trying to think, where am I, the 20th of this
You're
month?
in Connecticut.
I'm in Connecticut the 20th of
Do we
July.
have a second for Mr. Leek?
I will second Mr. Leek's nomination.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Welcome back to the ARB. I really appreciate you all and what you do, and I know a lot of you are pulling double nights, so I appreciate it. Cher, I appreciate your willingness to sit through all this. All right, old business, Mr. Marchand.
The zoning ordinance, with the town manager being gone, we've kind of put that on hold while we replace the town manager. Just the amount of work that we're having to do and while the position's vacant. Sign ordinance, that should come off. That should have come off the agenda. That's already been approved.
Okay,
Have had a couple applications under that new ordinance.
how's it going?
So far, so good. Temporary signs are still going to be
Real estate
challenge.
signs.
Which I forgot to, I caught afterward, excuse me for just a second, sidebar. In residential districts, there's no limit on the amount of the time. It's only in the commercial districts that there's a time limit.
Yeah, that's first I've heard that.
It was in there, and I overlooked it when I was thinking more of the commercial districts, but that was my focus, and then realized it's, residential doesn't have one. You still have the size requirements, but you don't have the minimum time.
I think that's,
So if you don't sell within the 45 days, that was a concern.
Correct.
It's not,
Right,
so
so
that's
it's really
great.
not a concern.
That's not a concern.
not an issue. All that time we spent,
Well, commercial still had it, I waited until a month after we adopted it to admonish that.
you're doing a good job, by the way. I appreciate what you do.
A comprehensive plan that's going to tie in once the zoning ordinance is complete. Town planner update, rather than go through my normal diatribe, I'd be happy to answer any specific questions you have about what's going on in town.
Anything new about Harover? Any timeline? Any,
We have the benches and the tables in. I think they're waiting on the rock to be removed.
Today really looks
Yeah, I'm going to look at it. It's
It looks
great
awesome.
news.
Did the rock been removed today?
Yes, sir, they're all moved today. It's graded. Just needs to be seated. and
Curious to know
strung.
where they took it, but I'm not going to ask.
I was just glad he agreed to do it.
Was that Hazel?
Yes, sir.
They probably dumped it in our right-of-way somewhere, but that's okay, too.
It's Phil
I'm not in
Stone.
charge of Prince Williams.
It's not in our right away.
So the benches hopefully will be soon. The garage, there is the police chief was asked to empty the garage, and there was an effort to empty the garage, and I think there's maybe the next effort maybe to remove the garage and bring that down.
We're
And
going to need a bigger
then-
truck for that.
What's that?
So we're going to need a bigger
A
truck.
bigger truck for that one. But we got enough labor, I think, to be able to take that down fairly quickly. July 11th, we've shortlisted 2 engineering firms to provide the engineering drawings for the master plan. Once those interviews are done, we hopefully will award the contract, and they'll start moving forward. And similar to what you saw tonight with the town center, you'll see a similar engineered plan for the Harover property, and that hopefully will be able to better handle on what the cost will be, and then be able to set up your budget to be able to make that happen. So that's the latest. I think there was an effort to try to do the park naming and do some other interim things to clean up the site. So.
One thing, can you, and I'll reach out as well to Mayor Leak about the one platform that's remaining, because the one is moved because it's in the right-of-way where they have to create the swell for the water runoff, so it's already gone. So Mr. Landry, if he wants one,
Gotta come get it. Sure.
like in the morning, because I'm going to call the mayor either tonight or first thing in the morning about getting a dumpster, because if they're willing to provide the machinery to move it, and at some point, we're going to have to provide a dumpster anyway, plus machinery, so while he's there, and he's going to be, the low boy's coming to take that bulldozer off-site tomorrow around 3 o'clock, so he said it has to be done by noon.
Okay.
So if you could we both bounce the mayor, maybe we can get that done.
I think too, there was some railroad ties that were framing a garden out back that I think we'll get rid of. There's a fence line, old fence line next to Baptist Church that we own. Take that down. So I think there's some smaller projects to continue to clean up the site. My daughter and I recycled about 6,000 pounds of metal out of the two sheds, a total of $25.
Oh, boy, how
I'm
lot
sure it was
of
worth
work.
all the labor,
Oh.
but we donated that cash to the food pantry.
Oh, very
So,
nice,
But
very nice.
other than that, most of you have seen the Chick-fil-A. I'm not sure why the houses on Blight Drive have stopped. They painted all the banding. They haven't put up any of the siding. They did put up the curb along Blight. And it looks like they're getting, I thought they were going to wait till later to do the sidewalk, but it looks like they're gearing up to do the,
They were putting in some type of underground piping last week.
Okay.
It almost looked like some type of I mean, don't quote me, but they were out there. Hazel was out there trenching, and that was last week. So
Sheets, we got the final site plan in for Sheets. So hopefully that'll be moving again.
How about the landscaping? Cookies and cream, of course, thank you, Sean Landry, for all the calories. They are wonderful. But I was wondering, do we know when the landscaping will be finished around it? The house, is there, do you know?
Have you been there recently? They put a lot of landscaping in.
Well, it's been a week, actually. I could stay away from it. I
Okay.
went twice in the first week, and I said I need to stay away for a few more
Hey,
days.
Rich.
Very good.
Okay, I've got to get back.
Yeah, there's some
Yeah,
pretty,
I'll get
pretty
that.
heavy landscaping being done there.
It's for the town I will be back, not for me. Sacrifice for the town.
Increase the tax base.
That's
Any other
Back-
questions?
To back out, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I have a question about the property 14860, that Washington Street, that, right before Animal Hospital. That I think it's
Open
big.
area?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are there any plan?
That property,
Uh-huh.
a gentleman came in and bought all three lots. There's a lot that butts Hunting Path, and there's also two lots on Washington. They vetted a preliminary plan to put some commercial on Washington and develop small lot singles or towns on the backside, which would have access off of Hunting Path and from Washington. They have not moved any further on those plans. So I think right now the gentleman just plans to hold it. So.
There is I think, 1, 2, 3, 4 property on the right side, on the Washington. Those also,
That have houses on them right now?
yeah, small houses. Is there any plan going on there, or?
No, we had approached the woman that owns the blue house that has the house right on the street. She had applied for a demolition permit. We had walked through that request, provided some alternatives. We actually met on site with the building official, with the architect from the ARB and some others to try to come up with some plans. The contractor estimated about $100,000 to rehab that building and put a second-story addition on the back. That seemed to be a cost that she was not willing to incur. So with the new blight ordinance, I think we're going to have to go back and push a better remediation of that property.
I believe that we gave her a demo permit to take off the addition on the back, and that if she wanted to take down the rest of the building, that she needed to give us a site plan of telling us what she was going to be doing with the property, if I'm not mistaken.
But any other?
Tobaccoology, I know we gave them back the final comments. Is there a lot of changes that they need to make, or?
So right now it's solving the landscaping.
Okay.
Brett had a concern about perimeter landscaping between him and BB&T and him being able to be seen from the road. His frustration, I guess, is having to rely on the property owner and the engineer. I'll have to give John Davis a call this week to see where he's at in coming up with an alternative landscaping plan so that Brett's being able to be seen. There's a photometric study that was supposed to be a part of that plan that wasn't included with the plan, so there's some missing elements that we need to get back on the
Light?
Yes, lighting plan that was supposed to be included with it, that wasn't. So it's back in their court right now. We'll follow up with the engineer this week, but as soon as it comes back in, we anticipate getting it on your agenda. Tobaccoology is the retail store that's behind BB&T.
Okay.
You may have seen it as the neon in the window. It's the old barn.
Yep.
So,
And anything new across the street?
no, I worked with the mayor on writing a letter to Mr. Smith, Stan Smith. The mayor did get permission to have the building inspector inspect all the properties with those that are occupied, with the permission of those that are occupying it. That's the first step to coming up with a remediation plan, either to secure, demolish, or rehabilitate. And then following that, we sent a formal letter to him initiating the process. So we're hoping to hear back from him soon on what he intends to do. And hopefully it's an incentive for him to get it addressed.
Okay, thank you.
Sherry, when is our August meeting? Do you have the date handy?
Third.
All right, if there's no other questions, do we have a motion to
I
adjourn?
make a motion that we adjourn.
Do we have a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Have a great night and welcome.